It is 12 o'clock in Amsterdam on October the 3rd, and that means it's time for another episode of the Emerging Horizons blockchain webinars, where we talk to the most interesting people in the blockchain space. And we do have a very interesting guest at our table today, once again, a long friend of mine in the blockchain space, Stefan Ponnet. Welcome.
Hello again, nice to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's great to see you again. Last time it was, I think, at the Odyssey Hackathon, where you were one of the participants in the Give It team, right?
Yes, that's true.
So how has life been treating you ever since?
Very nice. The hackathon went very well. We were with a large number of teams over there. We won some prizes, not the main prize, but it was interesting there.
Ah, very good, cool. It is a live webinar today, so that means that you can participate whenever you want to by typing in questions or comments. I can see them popping up in my screen over here, so once I see them I can ask these questions or put down these statements to our guest, or try to answer it myself if needed. But I don't think that will be needed with Stefan on my side today. We're going to talk about your Avado initiative, but we're going to do that later on. First of all, we know each other originally 3.5 years ago. We met through the Swarm City project. How are things at Swarm City?
Well, they're actually pretty nice. Currently, the development itself is on hold because the state of the technology doesn't really allow us to work much further. So we're still waiting. It's a difficult market. It's like a two-sided market we're trying to set up. So that's not very easy to do. But other than that, I think things are healthy there.
Okay, and you say that the state of technology, the boundaries you're running into. What is it that you're typically running into right now with the technical?
Yeah, so one of the things, of course, is the decentralization aspect. We need a reliable chat, a way of people to communicate with each other over decentralized channels, which is very challenging. And also decentralized storage is also an issue still.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the word decentralized a couple of times. We're going to talk a lot more about decentralization, also on the infrastructure side or the hardware side. But before we're going to do so, and again, if you have any questions to Stefan, don't hesitate to type them in. Before we're going to do so, and you can answer this question yourself as well, I'm very much interested in your opinion of what do you see as the most interesting development in the blockchain space at the moment?
Well, I think something very interesting right now is the work around decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. So trying to solve governance for several types of projects. So there are a lot of initiatives popping up there, and I think that's a very compelling space.
We actually didn't rehearse this one, but that is the topic of my PhD research. So it is, I couldn't agree more. It is a very interesting field to be in, the DAOs, especially and I believe that can really shake up things as how we organize things. The other end of the spectrum, obviously, is the most interesting part. Is what do you see as the most overhyped development we see in the blockchain space at the moment?
Well, I think currently the most overhyped issue or like topic would be like these permissioned stable coins that are popping up all over the place. I'm a very profound believer in the decentralized finance space. I think you need like permissionless stable coins to build on top of that. So I think there's a lot of fluff going on there, which is not very interesting.
So you're not a big fan of Libra?
Not really, but yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I think it has other benefits, but not as a stable coin as such.
So you're more into the MakerDAO DAI world?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's permissionless. You can build other stuff on top of it. I think that's essential, that permissionless aspect.
Okay, very cool. So again, if you have any interesting things you see going on in the blockchain space, let us know, or overhyped. Please share your opinions. And again, if you have any questions, please ask us, because that would be really nice for the interaction in itself. So we're going to talk about your Avado initiative, and tell us what is Avado? What are you working on?
Yeah, so we saw in the early days of the blockchain space that there was a big issue with all these centralized nodes. So you're running basically decentralized protocols, so which rely on verification, not trust, but yet everybody runs their nodes into a VPS service or like a centralized cloud service that they use to run their nodes on. So there's an issue with censorship resistance on the one hand. The other aspect is privacy. So you need, if you use public infrastructure from other people, they not only see your activity on the blockchain, but they also get a lot of other information from you, like your IP address and so forth. So privacy is also an issue.
That's an interesting one, and let's see if how you think about it at home during this webinar, or at work, obviously. So we have a little poll question there for you. You have no privacy if you use a node used by, or owned by someone else. So now we have a poll question for you. You can click on the answer. Do you agree, true, or do you disagree, false? Really click on the answer in the screen. We can see it popping up. And let's see if the audience A is awake and B, what their opinion is. We see the first question or first answers popping in. We can see it live on our screen as well. So you have no privacy if you use a node owned by someone else. And fortunately, we have mixed opinions. That's always good to see. It's always quite interesting if everybody is unanimous, but more interesting if we disagree on the answers. So we have answers popping in. I'll stop the poll and I'll publish the results right now. It is a 50-50. So half of the people think, hey, they have no privacy, and half of the people think they do have privacy. Please enlighten us a little bit. Do we have privacy if you don't own your node?
Like I said before, if you use public free services, then they tend to gather more information about yourself than necessary, which they not necessarily use right now, but they have the potential to use it maybe later. Also, it's not sustainable to run to keep on running these free services, basically. So there's like an issue with the fact that people don't, sometimes they also don't realize that they're using external services. So if you use an average dApp, for example, most of the time it connects to one of these centralized services. So it connects to a blockchain node, for example, which is hosted in a data center, and then you don't have that privacy which you think you have.
But going back, you mentioned the nodes are being hosted somewhere else. Mm-hmm. You mentioned yourself an initiative like Infura, but we are acting behind a pseudonym. So basically, because they are gathering more information around you, they could find out who you are and what your actions is. So how would that work then? Mm-hmm. Just for our audience?
Yeah, so if they record your IP address, for example, if you create a transaction that's private because you have your own, so the wallet address is not linked to your name necessarily, so nobody knows who you are on that blockchain. But once you publish it on a known node, then you still maintain that privacy. And if that's broadcast over the network, nobody knows where that transaction got inserted into the network. Now, if you use a centralized service, then they know if you sign the transaction and you put it on the blockchain, then they also know your IP address. And when they know your IP address, they also know where you live, or at least in which country you reside. So you lose some of that privacy that you think you have, and is also one of the reasons why a lot of people use blockchain, just to have that privacy.
Well, you already got some people worried. That is good. Stefan, thank you very much, or Stefan in this case. Thank you very much for your question. I have a Casa node. Should I get an Avado, and why?
That's an interesting question. I think also the answer for me would be, of course, simple: get an Avado as soon as possible. No, one of the reasons is that our box, and I brought some of them just to give an idea how they look. So it's very small appliance which you can just put next to your router. You just plug it in and it works. So our platform is basically extendable, so that means it can run any software. So anything that can be Dockerized using a Docker container, you can put and run on the device itself. If you compare it to other solutions like the Casa Huddle in this case, it's just a one-trick pony, as they call it. So it can do one thing. It can run blockchain nodes, a Bitcoin node in that case. But that's the only thing it can do. Then the hardware is like fully at full capacity, where our nodes are much more powerful from the hardware point of view. So it can run multiple instances of blockchains at the same time. For example, this the biggest box I brought here, the i5 it's called, it can run 3 blockchains simultaneously without any hiccups, and that's what puts it apart. So it's not only running and synchronizing a blockchain, you can just run other software on it as well.
Okay, cool. And another thing that you mentioned that is quite interesting is you said, hey, most of the software is hosted on cloud services, so they could basically bring it down if they wanted to. So what are the percentages? What are percentage of software is running on cloud services, and can they really bring it down?
Yeah, very recently there was a survey only a few days ago where they measured based on IP addresses and crossing other information that about 60% of all nodes are running in a data center somehow. But that means that if data centers, and these are always large companies, they decide that they don't want to support blockchain anymore, they could shut down like that percentage of nodes overnight. So that's a big risk, and so yeah, we don't want to take that. That's a little contrarian to the whole idea of decentralization. Of course, you want people to run these nodes in their home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And also besides the nodes in itself, which is the supporting infrastructure in the end, it is also the application layer in itself. I think the vast majority of the applications running on blockchain, except for the parts that are actually using smart contract coding, which is partially embedded in the blockchain in itself, are still run on centralized servers. So they could be brought down quite easily as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's also sort of a chicken and an egg situation where a lot of dApp projects, they just provide software. So they're basically software projects. So people have to go to the website, download the software, but then what? They have to run it on their laptop, which is often not convenient because you shut down your laptop. It's not 24/7 that you leave your laptop online. And yeah, secondly, that also creates the chicken and egg situation of adoption. So it's only worth running software from a certain project when there's a lot of demand, but there can only be a lot of demand for that particular solution if a lot of people run the software. So that's sort of the chicken and egg situation, and that's one of the things we try to solve with Avado. That's since it's expandable, a blockchain project can actually put their software on the device itself in a package, and the software projects themselves, they can also offer a hardware solution with their software pre-installed. So people that are not technically skilled, they could easily just buy the device pre-installed and just attach it to their router, and in that way support their favorite project.
I think you convinced Stefan. He understands, says thank you. Stefan will send you the link where you can actually order the Avado node. So that makes things much easier. And again, if you have any questions, please type them in for me or of course Stefan in this case. Hey, so you're basically advocating or emphasizing on the fact that everybody should run their own node, and I can hear you thinking, hey, but that is quite costly. I actually yesterday had a discussion with somebody who paid thousands of euros to have their nodes running, and maybe you're watching so you know who you are. But so let's start with another poll question, and that is, running a node at home can be done at zero cost, and I would love to hear your opinion about it. So it's another poll question, so please provide your answer. No way I can run it at zero cost. Of course I can run it at zero cost, and if so, tell me how. This is kind of the commercial side of the webinar, so to speak. So let me hear your opinion. No way we can run a node at zero cost. B, of course, and C, if so, let me know how. And please really click on the answer. First, and we see again a lot of division over there. So people with different opinions, which is always great again. So thank you for clicking on it, and don't forget to type any messages. And I'll stop the poll right now, and I'll display the results for everybody. most of the people say either of course or if so, tell me how. So people are interested. So how does it work? So you have a box like that, and then what do you do?
Yeah, I think there are several aspects. One of the concepts that we always adhered in the Swarm City project you mentioned earlier is the concept of which Rick Valkvinge brought us with Swarmwise, is to amortize costs over a big group. It can save you a lot of money in for example, in this hosting. That's sort of the principle we also have at Avado, that you say, like, if you can have a lot of people enthusiastic about your project and they just provide a fraction of the costs, or they divide a fraction of the cost, then it can be free for the project. Now, for the end user, of course, you would say, yeah, you have to buy the device. You also have to provide it with electricity, of course. These are the inherent costs of running a node. Now there are solutions for that, in the sense that since it's expandable, we are partnering with certain projects that are using the resources that you provide to the network. Because if you run a node, you have a 24/7 available device. You have a lot of disk space at your availability, and you have bandwidth. So, for example, I don't know if here in the Netherlands, do you have like unlimited internet connection at home?
I think at home everybody does, and even on mobile most of the people do right now.
So that means that your internet connection is already paid for. So whether you use it a little bit or a little bit more, it's not gonna cost you any extra money. So, but that bandwidth can be worth a lot to projects. So right now we have, for example, a project called Mysterium, which is running. So you can install it from the Dap Store. Maybe later on we can show some how it looks. And that will bring in money. So they provide a VPN service, so other people can use your node as a VPN endpoint to go online. And then, and of course, it's also whitelisted and all that, so you don't run into any legal issues there, of course. But they pay you a fee for running that. So that means that you can also recoup some of those costs, for example, the electricity costs. And in that way, you can really run a node at zero costs. And it goes even further than that. It can be a profitable business, which we call smart mining, basically, which is mining based on these three concepts, like the disk space, the 24/7 availability, and the bandwidth that you can provide to projects, which is worth something for them.
And it's actually interesting that you mention mining in itself, because one of the things associated with running a node is obviously mining, a lot of energy usage. So you would say that this could be a energy absorbing device as well. But we do have to understand we're running a full non-mining node in this regard, right? So exactly. It's not that they are calculating hashes all the time in order to get the mining bonus for, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum.
No, so you have the basic concept of proof of work mining. So that's not possible with the Avado. But that's the positive aspect of that, is that it only takes about 30 watts of electricity, which is almost nothing. So it costs about, someone calculated it, I think it's about $6 or $5 a month worth of electricity that you have to put into it. So it's very small. But also interesting is that more and more people are moving away from proof of work and going to proof of stake. And then it becomes interesting, because one of the aspects that you need to have for proof of stake is being 24/7 available. And that's one of the features you have with this box. So once proof of stake mining becomes mainstream, then this box can actually make you a lot more money.
Well, one of the most known semi-permissionless, that's always the discussion out there running proof of stake is EOS. Could you run an EOS node on this one, or is that specifically one that is impossible?
Yeah, that's that's not a good example, because the let's say the hardware capacities that you need for an EOS node go over that, and also you have to be voted in for that, so that's not possible. But for example, Dash, which is also one of the blockchains that can be supported, they have a proof of stake mechanism, and that could be used on the Avado. So you could run a master node on there if you would want to.
And if we ever run into the fact that we are going to go on the timeline of Ethereum proof of stake switch, then it would potentially be possible to do it as well.
Exactly, we're actively working on that. So we're manufacturing now sort of a hardware dongle that you could attach to the device, which could contain the keys that are necessary to seal blocks. So we're really preparing this box to be a participant in a proof of stake network.
Oh, cool. Very cool. So that with regards to, yeah, you don't really are mining due to the fact that you're producing hashes, but you're running a full non-mining node in itself.
Mhm.
So the promise that you say is, hey, this is basically the way to move away from the dependency of the Amazon Web Services, etc., and really run your own cloud, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the developments that we see now is that people that are using services like Infura, they now have the possibility to create their own cloud. And we dub that the Rio cloud, or the run your own cloud. So instead of being a customer of a cloud provider, you can just provide one yourself. So we have a package available on the Avalo. It's not been released yet, but it's we're testing it with like a small group of people right now. Where you can share your services. So, for example, if you are running a full node of Ethereum or Bitcoin, because our box is also blockchain agnostic. So when you buy it, it doesn't have any blockchain pre-installed on it, which is also a difference apart from the Casa HODL, for example. So it's you can choose what blockchain to run on it. But once you run that blockchain, you can share that with other people. So you have a package where you can say, okay, I want to share my Ethereum node, or I want to share my Bitcoin node. Or you could also put it in a way that your box becomes sort of a proxy, like an access point to a whole cloud of nodes, which is behind there. So you can really, as a company, for example, set up an own private cloud with some boxes very easily. You don't have to go through like IT or infrastructure, because you just have to plug it into your router, and it's really the only thing it needs. And then it can be clustered together. And we are now working on also an incentivization layer, so that you can actually pay for the access to the cloud, so to the whole bunch of nodes that's behind there. And that is rewarded to all people running the software. So it's again another incentive model, and that's what we're trying to do, like ramping up all these incentivized pieces of software that you can install. And so nothing prevents you from running these things at the same time. So you can run multiple of these incentivized solutions yourself.
I do have another question from Stefan. Thank you for that. And this gives me actually also the opportunity. We are talking a lot about the node part and the hardware part, but do ask us anything, because there is a broad blockchain knowledge around here, also from the DApp perspective and all the developments that are going on, especially in the Ethereum network, because that's where you're quite well connected, right? But the question from Stefan is, are we responsible for, e.g., child porn on your device, or any other element? Because you say he believed that you share storage space as well, as in Sia coin, or not?
Yeah, so that indeed could be an issue. Now, the thing is that you can choose which projects that you want to support. So let's imagine that, for example, you have the Swarm City project, as that example. If we would say, like, okay, this is the kind of storage that we need. In our case, it would be like pictures of like avatar images of people using the service. Then you could just choose, like, yeah, I trust this project not to put like illegal content on my device, and I support it. So it's not that you have to open it up for any generic file storage if you don't want to do that. You can just cherry pick those projects that you actually like, and yeah, those are the only ones that you need to support. And
so you keep in control who you give access, basically, in this kind of way.
Yeah, and we are trying to solve the infrastructure layer of the decentralization. So the application layer is on top of that, and I also think that like the filtering of that content should happen, of course, on the application layer, not on the infrastructure layer itself.
Okay, that brings me actually to the final question that I always ask to all the guests that I have at the show, and also I would like to hear your opinion out here that we can discuss at the table still, if you want to, and that is actually, what do you see as the top 3 most interesting projects out there? And it doesn't necessarily have to be 3, but please tell me which ones and why. It can be 2, can be 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the projects is, which is very close to my heart currently is called the Common Stack, which is a DAO project, which I mentioned earlier. That's one of the things I like. And so the goal of that project is to create like sustainable funding for open source project, but more in general for commons, so like common infrastructure, and like open source is like the digital twin of a commons, if you can call it like that. And so we're trying to figure out there in that project where, how to solve that governance problem. So that's for me something very interesting. Another, but it's not a specific project, but I think it's a concept in general, are the ideas of the those coin tumblers. We briefly talked about it earlier. So I think that's also a very interesting development, and which is also like in that whole region of the DeFi, decentralized finance space. So I think those are interesting things for
Well,
me.
the coin tumblers are also could be a potential threat in the sense that a lot of regulators out there will probably not like that in itself.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the like the interesting things. But nobody knows what will happen to them. They will probably be used for not so good things, but maybe also for other good reasons, to like to preserve the anonymity and so forth. Sort of to deter a little bit that anonymity that you lose or tend to lose by using these centralized services.
Hey, and the Common Stack initiative you're talking about, is it a DAO that you are building with the team completely scratch by yourself, or are you using existing code from, say, Aragon or DAO Stack or whatever, or are you really building it from scratch?
No, so we're it's already quite a large group of people working together. I think in the core group we're about 15 people right now. We have very close ties to almost any existing DAO project, including Aragon. We yesterday, by the way, we launched our Aragon app also to govern our internal processes, which is very interesting. So yeah, we're pretty close to those projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool to see. And with the Common Stack, is it also the idea, as with Aragon, that you can basically just by filling in parameters can deploy your own Common Stack DAO? Is that the idea? Or?
Well, the idea is based on academic work which has been done over the last few years. There's a tool called CatCat, which is a simulation tool, which is released in open source about a month ago. And our goal with this project is to create like building blocks for building governance systems for commons. So that's what we're trying to do. So we're not building an actual product, we're building like the Lego blocks that allow other projects to sort of fork that code and use it in a mix and match. But the big difference in our project, I think, in the Common Stack is that we are trying to sort of do all that research and like put that research on the table and see how people can sort of choose and pick from because nobody really knows how to solve it right now, but we're just attempting to provide some insights to the broader community to use those tools.
And I'll give you the chance to think about a third project that you like. And in the meanwhile, I would still love to hear some of the projects out there that you think are most interesting. So please type them in. I would like to hear your opinion. What is something we can still discuss at the table, or what you see as one of the most cool initiatives out there? So please type it in and we can discuss it at the table, because we do like interaction. So please type it in. So that gave you a few seconds. Any third project that you say that's worth mentioning now?
Yeah, I think but it's again not one single project. It's the whole transition towards Ethereum proof of stake.
Yeah.
What I find very very nice and then very interesting to see is how, like right now, I think it's about 7 different clients are participating in creating new like consensus rules and trying it out. It has never been done before on that scale. So I think it's very healthy for the ecosystem, and I think it's a transition where everybody's like looking out for to see how that will play out. So I think that's also very
because we've been talking about the transition from proof of work to proof of stake in Ethereum for quite a long time already. What is, and that I know it's a crystal ball question, but what is your expectation? When can we really expect that we'll make the switch? Because it's a very important switch in many ways, not the least the economic or the ecologic sustainability switch, basically, because we need much less computing power in the end if we run on proof of stake and proof of work.
Yeah.
What's your expectation if you had a crystal ball in this case?
Yeah, I think the approach that is being taken is a sound one, in the sense that the last thing I heard was that it's going to be begin 2020 that they roll out the first proof of stake network, and then as far as I understand, they're rolling it out in a gradual phase, that there are like ceiling blocks at the end of an epoch, and then like slowly increasing the amount of blocks that they will do from going from proof of work to proof of stake. So it will be like a mix, and then it will just slowly transition. Yeah, so I think they're taking many precautions not to sort of harm the existing system.
No, because it's a huge step, and if something goes wrong security-wise, that's basically the end of Ethereum. So
yeah, but that's why I think it's very interesting that so many teams are at the same time with different implementations trying to create one thing that sort of works with all these clients together. So I think it will be very robust once it's rolled out.
I do have one more comment from Stefan again. Thank you, Stefan, for your contributions. Really like it. Personal tumblers are interesting. That's what he says. They are in alpha, beta. What stage are they in? And are there any technical limitations to the tumblers/mixers?
Yeah, so these tumblers and mixers, they all rely on the fact that a lot of people have to participate.
Because if the number is too low, then you could still trace back where it came from. Or...
Yeah, because a lot of companies are already doing like chain analytics, or like trying to link different transactions together and really follow the money basically on the blockchain, which is one of the features, of course.
Yeah.
Even though you're pseudonymous, then still you can sort of link these things together, and these tumblers try to avoid that. But like numbers need to go up, like people that are using it. And it's also interesting to see that now the zero knowledge proof technology that's been introduced like a time ago in Ethereum allows those kinds of applications to appear.
Yeah. But are they in alpha, beta, or are they really live and just waiting for the right amount of users?
Yeah, there are a couple already that are live already now that you can use, but most of them are with like very small amounts of cryptocurrency, like 0.1 ETH, for example.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're gonna do a lot of stuff with that, but it's just like it's in experimentation phase still, but it's already live, so you can do it with actual money, not with test coins.
Yeah. Okay. This transition will be on the Robson first, and then on the mainnet. Do we know that already? Is the transition to proof of stake, or?
Yeah. So a few days ago, they rolled out some changes already to the Robson network, but they had some difficulties there still, which they're still working out now. But it's going on right now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. That is a very important change in the industry. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. There are no more questions or comments. Please, if you have any more questions later on, you can always email it to us, and we'll try to answer those later via email in itself. Again, like I said, it's the end of the episode. Thank you very much for watching again. And as it is a regular series of webinars, we'll be live again in 2 weeks' time. I want to thank you, Stefan, for your contribution. It was really great to have you here. And I want to thank you for watching today, and I hope to see you back in 2 weeks' time. And don't forget to fill in the poll afterwards, because that provides us very valuable feedback. And you can also fill in any projects that you would like to see on the table here in one of the episodes that will come up in the near future. So don't forget to tune in 2 weeks' time. And the next guest will be announced tomorrow or either Monday, so you can really focus and block this in your calendar already, and hope to see you in 2 weeks' time again. And again, thank you very much. See you soon. Bye.